LinkedIn's changed a lot. So people who knew LinkedIn back in the day when they were parking their profile or their so-called online resume, what can they do to level up quickly?
I really like the system that he's a famous YouTuber. Maybe you have heard of him, Ali Abdal. He has like a system which he says like get going, get good, and get smart. You need to get going. That's important. Your first posts when you're going to post content because you want to show your expertise, you want to show your knowledge. Your first 10 posts, quote unquote, are going to suck. They're going to be bad, but you need to do that in order to improve and make sure that your profile is as professional as you like it. So there are, of course, some things that you can do, like have a great headline. Of course, make sure you have a professional profile picture, but also good is good enough. So don't make it too rigid.
The idea of job security is outdated as a landline. If you haven't been in a search for a while, it's probable you will at some point, by choice or not. Most executives admit to staying way too long or sense what's coming and justify staying anyway. There's another reason. The faulty belief that navigating to what's next will inevitably be worse and has to suck. Screw that. Loren Greif has spent a lifetime in corporate and executive search, calling bullshit on stale career advice that most still use. This is Career Blast in a Half, the career podcast for executives ready to cut past outdated career advice to fuel your outcomes now. So let's go.
So let's pretend that you just were born and the first thing that you did in your career, whether you're in a job search, whether you're an executive, is go onto LinkedIn. And you're sitting here going like, wow, now what the hell do I do? Well, this is the reason why we have Martijn Holt here today. He has literally helped more than 31,000 professionals at every different level to really scale productivity and effectiveness on LinkedIn. This gentleman has also worked alongside one of my favorites, Richard van der Bloem. And so, Martijn, thank you so much for hoofing it over here and being such a wonderful spirit and also helping us to be able to use our influence and our effectiveness as productively as we do.
Thank you so much for that, Loren, and thank you for inviting me for your podcast. I really look forward to this one.
All right. So before we get into the whole LinkedIn nitty gritty here, I know that you have a couple of 3 core capital pieces, right? The personal, the knowledge, and the network capital. So help us to understand, just from a framework perspective, why, even before you start messing around with this thing and scaling your time and calendaring on your time blocks, why are these core principles so critical for us to be able to think about before we dive in?
Yeah, that's a good question, Loren. When it comes to business, whether you're looking for a job or starting as an entrepreneur or be an executive or whatever the reason is, most of us do this, of course, for financial capital. So this is one of the reasons. I hope it's not the only reason, but this is one of the reasons why you do your day-to-day job. Now, when it comes to making your financial capital, people often forget what you need for that. And this is where I distilled it to your personal capital, your knowledge capital, and your network capital. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to your business or the things that you do or the job that you seek, you have your personal capital. So this is your unique value. This is you. These are your core qualities, your experience, your point of view of looking at the world. So that's your personal capital. And many people don't realize how important that is, because especially in a world of AI where everybody can make content right now, especially now, your perspective on problems and things that you want to solve is super important. Now, with that being said, you need some knowledge for that. So what kind of experience do you have? What kind of studies, of course, that you did, but also how do you make sure that you keep up with all the trends, all the news, things going on in your industry? So this is where knowledge capital comes into play. So not only your personal capital, like who are you, but also how do you use all the information around you that you want to leverage? And I can talk about that for another 2 hours, but let's keep it to the topic that you want to talk about today. And then, of course, I really like the quote. Not sure who it is, of who it is, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So if you have like if you're an amazing person and you have like amazing knowledge, well, it would die on your lips if you don't share it with anybody. So this is where your network comes into play. Like, what kind of people do you want in your network? Which, I mean, like personal, but also, of course, on a more professional level. And how are you going to connect with those people? And with that, I mean, like, not only connecting on LinkedIn, because I assume most people know how to do that, but how do you build a relationship with those people? So those are like the three capitals.
All right. So now we have the tripod or the trifecta, right? These three
Yeah.
things, these buckets are part of the backdrop of what you should be thinking about. Is that correct? What you should be thinking about in terms of why you're there, because it's not just you're not just there for, let's just say, shits and giggles, right? You're there for a reason. And
Yeah.
all of these things are essentially coming into play. So now, what I would love for us to talk about, right, is what can people do and avoid when they get to LinkedIn so it is not living up to this kind of bad rep that it gets, like, oh, I have to spend LinkedIn is such a time suck. I sometimes hear that, like, I don't want to get lost in down that LinkedIn rabbit hole because I'm never coming back. So what can people do to approach it? Let's just say, in their early days on LinkedIn, their first 30 days. And
Yeah,
let's just also say that LinkedIn's changed a lot.
it
So
is.
people who knew LinkedIn back in the day when they were parking their profile or their so-called online resume, what can they do to level up quickly?
It's a nice one because when I talk to people for the first time, they ask me like, "Hey, okay, you give LinkedIn training, and do you have a little bit of experience in that?" I always say, when Twitter was still a fun place to go, back then I already gave training around LinkedIn. So I started my first LinkedIn training around 2012, something around that. And back then, LinkedIn was only used if you need a new job. Now, fortunately, of course, and I don't have to tell you that, Loren, you can still use LinkedIn for that perfectly. But it goes beyond finding some job slot and then applying and then maybe let's hope for the best. Although you can still use LinkedIn for that, but that's just a really small piece of it. So if you're just getting started, like you said, like the scenario of what would you do in your first 30 days that you go on LinkedIn, or maybe if you haven't been to LinkedIn for a long time, like where should you start? I really like the system that he's a famous YouTuber. Maybe you have heard of him, Ali Abdal. He's really big in the whole productivity sphere, and he has like a system which he says like get going, get good, and get smart. And I really like
Mm.
that idea because I look at LinkedIn from those kind of perspectives that we talked about first, like the personal knowledge and network capital. But the problem is that if you don't do it in an effective and efficient way, it's like you said, a time sucker. So if you go connect with lots of people and then go to your newsfeed and try to find something that might be interesting, it will take you for ages. And I don't have time for that. You don't have time for that, and I assume your listeners don't have time for that as well. So in those first 30 days, I would say first of all, get going. That's the most important one. Well, we need to learn a little bit more about what to do and how to create the perfect profile. Maybe I should get a new profile picture, and maybe you should, but that's not the point. You need to get going. That's important. Your first posts when you're going to post content because you want to show your expertise, you want to show your knowledge. Your first 10 posts, quote unquote, are going to suck. Sorry for the word, but they're
They're
going to be bad. They're going to be really, really bad. When I look at my first posts in 2012, I have got a screenshot from it. It's like, what was I thinking? But you need to do that in order to improve. It's like going to the gym. The first time you get there, it's like, what should I do with all those machines? Like, what's going on here? And well, maybe you should just get a personal trainer, but but just get going. So the first thing I would do is get going and make sure that your profile is as you like it. So there are, of course, some things that you can do, like have a great headline. Of course, make sure you have a professional profile picture, but also good is good enough. So don't make
Mm.
it too rigid. Get going. Make sure that you get going.
Okay, wait. I want to just challenge you here because this
Sure.
is kind of like a more recent topic, quote unquote, up for debate. I should write a post or should I get practice in my training wheels in the comments?
Good one. I would say both. What I would do in those first 30 days, and let's go to the first 10 days where you get going. Let's assume you do that. What I would do is do both. And that means in the first 30 days, I would try to write 2 posts, not that,
Mm.
not more. Yeah, sure, you can post every day, but just stick to those 2. Make that your best offer, or sorry, best effort. But also start to comment on other people's posts as well. Because if you do that, you get an idea of what's your style of writing. What kind of topics are you really interested in? Like, you have something in your mind, but maybe when you read something about it, maybe not. Or you read something and you're like, hey, I'm also really interested in that topic as well. So you can see what other people do. And when you comment in the comment section, I know that you got Jasmine on the podcast, my colleague Richard as well. They talked about this. When you start to comment, you have the ability to show your expertise without creating a complete new post. So your comment should be insightful. So if I comment on your post, Loren, which I do because you share amazing content, it's always more than great post, Loren, because you don't want to be famous for oh, who's that? Well, that's the great post guy or girl. It doesn't make sense. So you want to make insightful comments. And if you do that, that's a great start, especially if you're a little bit hesitant of going on LinkedIn, because of all social media places, LinkedIn is the most kind place that you can go. For example, when you compare that to X. But still, I can imagine that people are like, yeah, but what am I going to say? I don't want to look stupid, or I have some information, but everybody knows this already, right? Well, I can assure you, many people don't know that information. So, and if they do, well, great, then it's a great reminder for them. But
I
starting with
wanted to,
comments, that's a
yes,
good thing.
Craig Davis, who I know that you know as well. I
Yeah,
love what he shared about comments, about it being an audition. So
yeah,
this is your audition. You get to, again, like, put your training wheels on, try it out, like see where your voice is. And also, I know that there's lots of ways to both elevate the conversation through comments and also politely challenge people. So it's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be a Pollyanna or like this kind of like stroking thing at all. It's an opportunity. I mean, that doesn't mean to be an ass. It just means that it's an opportunity to be able to flex into areas where you are taking a point of view. And if
yeah.
you are a leader, you have a point of view. And that's a
You should.
perfect
Yeah,
opportunity to showcase it.
yeah,
So,
100%.
okay,
Yeah,
all right. So either one, I like what you said. I'm just going to summarize this. 2 posts in your first 30 days and
10.
also 10 posts, sorry,
No, no,
10
no, no. 2
you say
posts
it.
in your
Yes.
first 10 days, because then we got another 20 days left, because
Okay.
you want to get that experience going. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. 10 the first 10 days, 2 posts. There you
yep.
go. Perfect. And you can comment to your heart's delight.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would go, if you want a number, I would go 3 to 5 a day.
3 to
And
5 a day. That's so scalable.
that is scalable. And if you just start off, that will take you a long time. And with long, I mean,
Mm.
like, that will take you 20 minutes or something like that. You have to find something interesting. Then you have to think about, like, hey, what am I going to say? Then you have to write it. Then you have to think about it. So in the beginning, this will take some time. And I am all for efficiency. And if we can do it smarter and quicker, I'm all for that. But you need you know, this take practice, and practice takes
Mhm.
time. So you need to spend some time on that. Unfortunately, there's no other way. Don't don't use AI for your comments because people will notice. So if some people think like that's a shortcut, no, don't. So you really want to get that practice in. But you know, the more that you practice, the faster it goes. So then 20 minutes become 15, become 10, become maybe even 5.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just said something that I think needs a little bit more love and attention. Don't use AI in the comments. People will notice, but more than that, what are the consequences associated when you do that? I mean, we love AI. AI is great, but
Yeah.
where but what will that what will that mean? What are you missing here?
I love AI. I use ChatGPT and all sorts of AI every day. And I think if you use AI to come up with some ideas or to use it to maybe rewrite the things that you have written in a maybe more structured way or give you some ideas around that, that's a great thing. You should do that. There's some tools out there. Otherwise, you can just copy, for example, quick hack, just copy the post that somebody has posted in ChatGPT, then ask like, hey, how can I address this topic in this specific way, which is my expertise? It will come up with some suggestions. You can go back and forth. So if you use AI for that, especially in the beginning, sure, that's no problem. But then when you have some sort of a solid structure, then rewrite it again, but then completely in your own tone of voice. So please use AI. Use just tools that are out there. That's perfect. But don't go for some quick tool that just drops in some automated comment, because I can spot them from miles away, and more people can, and that's not definitely not how you want to be seen in your network as an executive or someone
Yeah,
as important as your listeners.
I'm going to add into that. I think it really boils down to trust and integrity.
Yeah,
You want to represent the values. And also, if somebody is hiring you and putting their business, their P&L, their people all in your hands, you think they're really going to want to hire somebody that scammed the system? Come on. It's not
let's not do that.
cool. It's not
No.
we approached this, and what next? What do we do
Yeah,
next after we get I mean, I like this framework too. Get going, get good, get smart.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how now we're getting going. How do we
yeah.
get good?
So how you get good is we assume that your profile is optimized. So let's leave it for
Yeah.
that. Let's focus on content and networking, because those are the most, not the most important, but those are the ones that will take more out of your time. So when it comes to get good, I would say have a look at the 2 posts that you have created and see what you can do better based on comments that you got. Maybe the time that you posted it, was the topic was the topic that you addressed, was that the topic that you wanted to address? So have a look at the posts that you already created, but also, and this is where your comment strategy comes into play, have a look at those comments that you have posted in the last 10 days and then use them as a way that you can create more posts, because in the next 10 days, so between day 10 and day 20, I would say you want to create another 5 posts. And you can bulk that. So you can say, like, I'm going to schedule, I don't know, 1 hour, and then I'm just going to create all of those posts and I'm going to schedule them on LinkedIn. There's some pros and some cons on that. Let me not get into those details. But that's something you can do. You could also say, like, I am going to post, or I'm going to think about a post every 2 days, something like that. But you really want to start improving the things that you have already done. Also, when it comes to get good, it's important that you start some sort of habit formation. So in the
Mm,
first 10 days, let's say you can, I don't know, if there's a day that you were a little bit too busy, sure, that's okay. In the next 10 days, you really want to make sure that you spend at least 10 minutes a day on LinkedIn every day.
mm,
I am all for a strategy where you say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes a day, or maybe if you're just starting, you're really, really busy, you do it 5. But of course, if you want to get some leverage out of LinkedIn, if you want to get some results, you should spend some time there. Let's all agree on that. But if I send you away with a structure that will take you an hour a day, I can promise you this will give you better results on LinkedIn, 100% guaranteed. Only the problem is it's really hard to keep that up, especially if you're really busy. But 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes a day, that's not an
Anybody can do
excuse. Anybody can do that. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon. Again, you will get much more out of LinkedIn if you spend more time there and improve, of course. But LinkedIn is, I would say, sort of LinkedIn is a marathon
that.
and not a sprint. It's you cannot be successful in 30 days on LinkedIn. Although some people disagree, but then you have to buy their course for 997 euros with 3 bonuses. Sorry, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to get going, and then you have to make sure that LinkedIn becomes a habit, and not LinkedIn, but the comments, the creating content, the networking with people, inviting people that have, if you're not invited yet, that have commented on your post. If you are already connected with them, re-engage. Like, hey, Loren, I saw you commented on my post. Thank you so much for that. Got me thinking. Went to your profile, saw this and this and this. Richard has in your podcast some really great ideas about how to connect with those people based on mutualities in the profile and so on. So that's a good one.
So,
But that's
Martijn,
what I would do when it comes to get going.
I have a
Sorry,
question
get going. Yeah.
because when you say get good, right? Let's put the metrics aside for a minute, right? So now how do I know I'm getting good? Like what are the signals that would say, "Ooh, making progress here." Like things are picking up. I can see I can see the fruits of my labor. What does
Yeah.
good mean? And I'm not saying that in a good like meh way. I'm saying like good, like you're seeing some traction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to me, it's two things. You're seeing the results, but then you have much more variables that you have to take in consideration. The algorithm of LinkedIn. When did you post? Is it a holiday? Well, 10,000 things. So those metrics are a bit hard. I would say, are you proud of what you have done?
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you look at your profile, so the first 10 days, you optimize your profile, you did some things. Great. Now go back in 10 days. Are you proud of what you see? And if you are not, well, what can you improve? Get better, get good. And if you are, well, then you are good for that. Same goes with your content because it takes time on LinkedIn for you to grow in a professional way, but also grow your network, grow your reach, and so on. So only focus on how many likes you get or how much reach you get. I'm saying it's important. It is important. But if that's the only thing that you focus on, it's not a good metric. So I would focus on, are you proud of what you have posted? How can you improve it in a way that even helps you get your knowledge and your expertise out there even better? And a metric that would help is, for example, people that have visited your profile or that have commented on your post or liked it or some sort of engagement. Go to those people, especially if you know them a bit, which I assume because your network is still relatively small, you're just getting started, and ask them, like, hey, you commented on my post. Thank you so much for that, for first of all. What do you think of it? What can I improve? But that's what I would do. But again, without all those metrics, most important is, are you proud of what you do?
Mhm. Yeah. I think that it is an effort. I'm not going to lie and tell you like, you're not going to break a sweat every now and again. But I
Mhm.
think that really, really also, I'm just wrapping it back up into this core principle that you talked about in the very beginning. This is what professionals these days do. And so it's part of a new skill set. And
Yeah.
so I agree, like be proud of yourself, right? You're showing not only that you're doing it, but also I use this term a lot. Some people like don't understand what I'm talking about, so I just want to break it down for a second. This allows you to also amplify your relevance,
Yeah.
right? You are in an audience of people that are business people. They're professionals. This is their online go-to. Some people will say, "I don't do social media." Okay, fine. But LinkedIn, while it is social media, is also the breeding ground of new relationships, new opportunities, and a place for you to clearly develop the kind of thought leadership that people who are hiring care about.
Yeah.
So put some of that kind of preconceived notion or you know smack talk, put it on the side because you have a job to do, and that's to make sure that you're contributing
Yeah.
and using relevant tools that matter today.
And
So
and and even if you're right, which most cases are not, but even if you're right and your audience is not on LinkedIn, well, if you're active on LinkedIn via your profile, via your content, it's indexed by Google. And
mm,
everybody will Google you the first time they will meet you or when they have a job interview or whatever it is. So your content, your profile even pops up via Google or any other search
mhm.
engine, of course. So
Yeah,
again,
your resume is probably not being indexed by Google, by the way. And
no,
so
no, no. Yeah. Well, exactly. If you have it on your computer in a PDF, yeah. So that's important for people to know. Like, yes, your audience is on LinkedIn, and even if would be right and they're not, then still they're 100% certain on Google, and that's where you wanna spend some time, or that's where you want to be found.
okay, let's get smart. What happens
Yeah.
now that we're getting good, we feel proud, we're like fired up about being there. It's not so herky jerky. We feel a little bit warm and fuzzy. Now,
hmm
how do we get smart?
Well, this is actually my favorite topic because what you can do now is see what am I doing and how can I be smarter around this. So, for example, if you have created now 7 posts, like 2 in the first 10 days, and then days after that, okay, so yeah, you've created 7 posts. Maybe you're a bit out of inspiration. So here
Mhm.
is where I would say AI comes into play, and just copy all of your 7 posts into AI and say, "Hey, this is what I'm talking about. Give me 20 suggestions of posts I can write." Boom, there you go. All right. Have a look at the tone of voice of the posts that I have just feed you. Give me 3 relevant posts. Write me 3 posts that are in that same tone that you can. So of course you can play around with ChatGPT. And again, big emphasis. Then you rewrite it in your own words. But we've already discussed this. So this is number one. So you have to be smarter with your content. Another thing that I would do is make sure that you always have your digital notebook, like Apple Notes or OneNote or whatever you use. Doesn't really matter. Make sure that you always have that some sort of on the side. And whenever people talk about something that you find interesting, use that as a gateway of how you can create new posts. So, Loren, I see some books around in the back. I see Living the Dream, which inspires me. Like, hey, that could be a post because I got an idea around this. Now, all of those ideas are fleety; they're gone in a second. So make sure that you capture them, and preferably, I always do this by digital notes because then you can search them. Because if you just
Mm.
write it on a piece of paper, it's gone. So that's the thing that you can do. So broadly speaking, I would say in the last 10 days, so the days that you get smart, have a really good look of what's your workflow and see what you can automate there. I
Mhm.
am not, that's an important one. I am not talking about automated outreach on LinkedIn because then you let AI do the work and then, well, let's not get into those details, but that's not a good idea. But for example, if you have in those 20 days you have invited 50 people, what kind of invite text did you use, which one worked better and which one are you proud of, which is an important metric, and then use a text expander.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you know it, but it's software where you could say with a few keystrokes I am creating a complete text. So in my
Mm.
case, if I type EMM, it will automatically create my email address. If I
Mm.
type AD, it will automatically type my address of my home address in full. So these tools are called text expanders, and these you can use for templates. So you're not automating it, but you're actually using things that worked in the past, and you use a text expander to, what would you say, get that text back pretty soon. And for example, I only have to fill in your name. So I could say like, let's say, connect, something like that. Then the screen pops up. I can type in Loren. I can press enter, and then a complete text pops up like, "Hi, Loren. I was on your profile and I really liked your post about this and this and this.
Mm.
Maybe it's good for us to connect. So
Mm. So you're
also,
using that through the DMs?
I'm using it, yeah, especially in DM. So most of the times it's too much work to create a template for a connection request, which is 300 characters that I want to personalize. Like, doesn't make sense. I can just write that myself. But I do have some templates for follow up where I know that people are really interested in a specific topic. And instead of me all the time like typing it to explain what I'm going to send them and why they should have a look at it, I have sort of a snippet, text expanders call it a snippet. Um, I type in some text, the snippet pops up, I drop it in the DM, and then of course I personalize it a little bit. But this saves me, pretty funny because textexpander.com, that's one of the programs. It shows you how much time you save, which
Mm.
is in my case around 80 hours a year, which is like,
Oh, I mean,
and
that's
that's
like
only that's
like a
repetitive
vacation.
tasks.
That's a vacation.
It doesn't make like, and I think it costs around $4 a month. So that's an that's an easy one, because repetitive tasks you want to automate, or you want some tools to do the heavy lifting for you. Again, don't use automated outreach. Doesn't make sense at all. Yes, you will grow your network really fast, but not with relevant people, so it doesn't make sense. But using tools to help you do repetitive things, I am
Mm.
100% for that. Yeah.
Mm. Wow. So we're going to steer this over. So let's just summarize for everyone. Get
Sure.
going is define get going in a one liner. Give it to us straight.
Make a habit and see what sticks.
Get good.
Quantity and quality.
Get smart.
What's the one thing that can improve your workflow? And start with that.
All right. Perfect. So I'm like addicted to Post-its. I mean, I got like Post-it issues. I mean, somebody should stop me. But I would like to know and keep these things around because my brain works way too fast and I need some stop signs and reminders like what? Slow down or like think about this. What would be the one that you would suggest that people do in their first 30 days to really increase their productivity if we haven't already talked about it?
What would you? My thing, the thing that helped me most, I have to be honest, when it comes to creating content, is catch those ideas.
Mm,
That was like the most important thing. So you have post-its. I have I think it's only for the Apple ecosystem, but I use a task manager called Things. And what I
mm,
can do with Command P, I can instantly post a to-do in there. So you have the same like me, like you have a really quick brain. Like sometimes it's hard to keep up with your own brain. Yeah, it is. So what I have is like I have an idea and I just press Command P, I type it, I press enter, and it's gone.
mm,
But then it's in an inbox where I can find it back.
mm-hmm.
And the crazy as it sounds, the reason why that worked is because before that, I used to use, for example, a Word document. But the problem
Ugh,
was I needed to open it, and took it's Microsoft, so it took a long time before to open. Then I need to type it. Then I need to decide where to put this document in what folder. So it was like mayhem. So make sure that you have some sort of a structure or some sort of a tool, and it doesn't have to be things, it can be whatever you want, but it has to be something that you can use in just 1 second because your
okay.
brain goes fast. Yeah.
So
And that's
capture it.
something, yeah, and that's something that
Capture it.
worked really well for me. Although it has nothing to do with LinkedIn. You can use it for much more. But I used this like, oh, I need to send Loren, I need to send her a link. Come on, T, enter, type it in, go. So during meetings, during things that I'm doing, I can just drop all of those things in so they're out of my mind. And then I go to my
Right.
inbox twice, 3 times a day, and then I can structure it. So this is like sort of more a productivity tip, but it really
Yeah.
works well for me on LinkedIn because I now can have all of those ideas and people I want to connect with and stuff I wanted to do on LinkedIn. I have that captured. And that's really a game changer for me.
And the name of it is Things.
Yeah, it's things. I think Todoist. might
to
be a
do it.
better
Yeah.
one if you are outside of the Apple ecosystem, because that works everywhere. The thing is, you want to
Mhm.
search for a tool that can instantly capture your thoughts. And with
Mhm.
instantly, I mean it has to be a shortcut,
Yeah. Do
like
you ever
Command
use
T or
voice
Command P
notes?
or
Voice notes?
sorry.
Voice notes? Do you ever
Voice notes
use
could
that?
be as well. Could be
Mhm.
as well. But for me, then I need to grab my phone. I need to
Yep.
find a memory recorder, and I need to press. That's already 3 steps. It's already too much. And if I just press Command P, a screen pops up. I type, I press enter, and it's gone. That works so well for me. It's when I think
Yeah.
about it, it's like a crazy tip, but this was really a game changer for my productivity.
I got to tell you, I love all of these productivity tips, and test them and figure out the one for yourself, because if you divorce me from
Yeah.
my post-it addiction, we're going to have an argument.
No,
So
no, no. We
whatever
don't want
works
that.
for you, whatever works for you is great.
Yeah.
The last question I really want to probe, and this is more of a fun question. I mean, you're like a very deliberate guy, right? You're not like messing around, but I want to know, like, what's your walk-up song? What's the song that gets you going? Not that you necessarily even need it, but what is the song that like either speaks to productivity or just like kicks your butt and says, like, I'm going to make the most of this incredible opportunity, whether it be on or off LinkedIn?
A song,
A
like
song.
music. I think I would go for Armin van Buuren's Take a Moment, the Alex Morph remix. That's really specific, but it's an uplifting trance track. So it has a build up like trance music, and then it has a build up with like lots of focus and stuff like that, and then a bass drops. And I always use this if there are people who are listening that are runners, they are going to
Mhm.
hate me for this, but I'm sorry. It's just my thing. When I go for a run, like 5, 10, 15 kilometers, I have to be honest. Lately, it's 5. But when I go on a 5 kilometer run, when I see home, which is still around 300 meters, then I put up this song. I wait for like the build up coming in, and then when the bass kicks in, I just sprint until I can't do anymore. And then I stop running, which is like everybody's listening, like that knows a little bit of running. It's like, no, you should. All right. But I think that will be the song that really gets me going, like the uplifting trance with beats and stuff like that. I can go really into the zone.
Well, this is a perfect metaphor, because what we've been talking about today is the first 30 days, which we'll call our LinkedIn sprint, and what to do during that time. Martijn, you are incredible, and I appreciate you on so many levels. And thanks for hanging out with us today and being on the podcast. Of course, we will include your link, and please reach out to LinkedIn to Martijn for productivity tips and training. Thank you, listeners, dear listeners, executives. We know it's not easy out there, and I want you to know that we've got your back. And we are here every single week with leaders, experts, people that are here to make your search and your impact so much more effective and efficient. So if you've liked this episode, please go ahead and subscribe, share a I always say that, share a podcast review, and pass it along to some of your friends. And I'll see you around, and thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining today. We appreciate your listening ears. Big time. We ask this: use these tools, not tomorrow, right now, and share them by spreading the love, leaving us a rating and subscribe so you don't miss the next career blast in a half. Most of all, thank you for you.